Inside this tank holds an army of 500 colorful shrimp, and in today's video, we will be upgrading their home and testing 5 different types of food. You see, I was scrolling on YouTube the other day when I found some other creators that did the same idea, but with ants. So I decided to do the test with shrimp. But before we feed our first type of food, let's make some quick upgrades to their tank. I think it's best we add some plants to help filter out waste and a DIY rock cave. So I took a quick drive over to the pet store and picked up some Amazon swords. I think these will look nice if we throw them in the back of the tank on each side to help soak in all the waste. So I grabbed some egg crate and zip ties so we can create the skeleton for our cave. I'm planning on making a box-like structure with an entrance in the front. Once I built my frame for the cave, I grabbed some spray foam. This spray foam will create a rock-looking structure around our egg crates. I made sure to cover all the sides with as much spray foam as I can. We have to add a lot of rock to make this look like a cave. Once I finish placing all of our rocks, it's important we let this foam harden overnight so our cave stays secure and none of our rocks fall out. I came back the next day till our foam expanded nicely over the rocks. So I brought the cave up to the tank, and at first when I dropped it in, I realized we had a huge issue. The cave had way too much foam, and there's no way we could get it to sink to the bottom. So I decided to grab some extra rocks from our supply room and load them all onto the top of the cave. We finally got it to settle, but our tank looks crazy. So while we wait for the tank to clear up, let's go get some of our foods. So I went around the store and grabbed a bunch of different items. When I got back to our tank, it was now cleared up, so I headed over to the Simply Kitchen and grabbed a cutting board and knife to prepare our first type of food, fruit. I got a pear, an apple, and a cucumber. It's important we remove all the skin from the fruits because most of the bad stuff sits right on the outside layer, and even a tiny bit of it can mess up a small shrimp tank. So I grabbed our 3D printed food holders and placed our chunks of fruit on them, and I dropped them into the tank. And at first, the shrimp didn't seem interested until they found the cucumber. It's pretty cool to see that the shrimp can eat the same food as humans, but after 3 hours, the shrimp barely ate any of the fruit. I came back a couple days later, and it's time for level 2 of the food challenge, vegetables. So I headed over to the kitchen and grabbed our cutting board and knife. We got broccoli, carrots, and spinach. These veggies are great for Neocaridina because they're loaded with vitamins and minerals that help with molting and overall growth. So I grabbed a mug and filled it with boiling water and dropped our pieces in. Once they softened up, I added them to our skewers and dropped them into the tank. At first, the army started out small, but definitely built up larger than the fruit. Check out these shrimp tearing apart the spinach and the carrot. So I left our veggies for the shrimp to devour. I came back and it's time for level 3, and we have shrimp sticks. I know it's not shrimp on a stick, but these shrimp lollies are basically little feeding sticks coated with nutritious powder. So I grabbed 3 different colored sticks, and when I dropped them in, the shrimp instantly started to swarm these. Each stick was filled with so many shrimp, they had to take turns. If this doesn't win the challenge, I don't know what will. Now with 3 of our food levels down, I'll be back in a couple days to try out our last 2 levels. So it's time for our 4th type of food, and this time we have fish. In the wild, when a fish passes away, the scavengers at the bottom, like shrimp, crabs, or a crawfish, will detect the smell and move in for the meal. So I drove over to the pet store and found they had minnows and goldfish. So I grabbed some and brought them back to the Simply Mobile, but realized we only had 2 different types of fish. So I stopped by the local lake to see if we could catch some bait in a custom body armor fish trap. So body armor, if you're watching this, send me a case. Anyways, I separated the top from the bottom and created our DIY fish trap. I grabbed the best bait for fish traps, Lay's potato chips. These chips break down in the water and create a strong smell that will attract the bait fish. And once our trap was filled, we found a shallow spot and placed it in the water. While I waited for the trap, I went to check out the fishing spot, and I found a bench. I don't think that's supposed to be there. I guess they gave the fish a place to sit. I went back to check the fish trap, and it was surrounded with minnows. So I pulled the trap and it looks like we caught some. So I drove back with our bait fish. We caught a mosquito fish, like the ones in our crab video. So I placed our 3 bait fish in a bag and placed them into my freezer. Live feeder fish can carry pesticides or diseases that can harm your pet. So it's best to freeze them so all the bacteria gets killed. While we wait, let's do a quick cleanup of our tank. So it's best we do a 30% water change to provide new water into the ecosystem. Once our water was done, I decided to grab our water vacuum and clean up the leftover food and waste. It's important to keep your tank clean so everything stays healthy and proper. And now with our ecosystem cleaned up, we can add our fish into the shrimp army tomorrow. I woke up the next day and grabbed our fish from the freezer and placed them onto our food holders. I think these fish will do the best in the food challenge, so I dropped them into the tank, and our shrimp started to smell the aroma, which got our 2 minnows destroyed, but they didn't like the goldfish, so I guess we'll need to keep one as a pet next time. It's now time for our 5th and final food. We're going to be feeding our shrimp. So I grabbed some frozen shrimp from the freezer, the same kind you'd cook, and thawed them out in my coffee cup. Once they were ready, I placed them onto my food holders and dropped them into the tank. At first, the shrimp started out slow, but once the smell was unlocked, they started to swarm. It's pretty crazy to see shrimp eating shrimp, and I know it may be gruesome, but it's just a simulation of nature. Now with our food challenge complete, let's rank our foods to see which one did the best. At number 5, we have fruits. Even though the shrimp nibbled on the pear, apple, and cucumber, fruit doesn't have much protein, which is what the shrimp really wanted. So these got last place in our challenge. Next up, at number 4, we have fish. I thought the fish was gonna do the best. They ate it, but the swarm took more time to build up, and compared to the higher ranked foods, they didn't get really torn apart. Coming in at number 3, we had shrimp sticks. These performed exactly how you'd expect. The powder coating dissolved into the water, and it pulled the shrimp from every corner. But even though they're packed with nutrients, they're still manufactured food, so the reaction wasn't as natural or explosive as our top 2. And at number 2, we had our vegetables. The veggies surprisingly took second place, because once they were boiled and softened, the shrimp loved these. Even though they weren't protein heavy, they still made the swarm look huge. And our champion at number 1, we have the shrimp. It was kinda surprising to me that the army absolutely swarmed the shrimp, and this was the fastest, most chaotic reaction out of all 5 foods. So if you want to see how I started my journey, then click this video here.